Good afternoon, everyone. This is Henry Gambell with SimplerTrading.com, and in tonight's free video, I wanted to bring some ideas to you that I'm going to be working with into the March expiration. So heading into tomorrow, which will be the 5th, we will have 2 weeks to plan out the first witching expiration of 2021. And on the back of all of this volatility, I like to generally think about the idea that volatility is going to be a mean reverting type of product, which is to say, volatility has really spiked up in a lot of these names and will likely come into that March expiration. It's not really an attempt to call the low, but it's to say it's a spot where I think we could begin to trade inside a range. This Peloton chart has several qualities that I want to bring to you that you can consider in your own symbols. But think about the idea that, we have seen a very sharp correction, so that helps drive up the implied volatility. We are right back at a previous low, so inside a rather bullish trend, if it's going to be any good, bouncing in this area might make sense. And then also that we are trading at a psychological price point. In this case, the big round number of 100 is a value that you can often see oscillation around just because of the psychological tendencies near that. And then also, as you get into that witching expiration, sometimes, not always, but on that Friday, you'll find that market makers really enjoy trying to pin stocks or to get these names to close at exactly 100 in this case. And then that way, everyone that bought the $100 calls, right? And you can think about all this, the betting that's going on right here. But if you pin at 100 on that expiration, well, then everyone that bought the $100 calls, those will be worthless. All the $100 puts will be worthless. And usually that's a big win for the market makers. So you try to think about taking the other side of this trade and potentially selling the straddle. If we come over and look at Peloton, this is the 19th is the expiration that I'm referring to. And you kind of do the math in your head to begin with, but I like the idea of doing it around 100 for the reasons we've just discussed. Doing that at the current prices would leave you with bearish deltas because the majority of what you're doing, the meat of the option that you're short, the more expensive one, is the $100 call. So you would want that to fall to allow that value to deteriorate. But the way that I think of it is just say that you did go ahead and initiate it. You're going to get about a $15 credit on the short straddle. That is going to give you $15 of break even in both directions. So do you think that Peloton over the course of the next 15 days will be below 115 and above 85? Well, then, if you would agree with that, then that's a strategy that might make sense for you. So I think that's how you want to shift gears, and instead of being so worried about which direction heads next, just know that this expiry tends to be a very important one. You'll likely see volatility contract here in the next several sessions, and then once it has that contraction, we'll likely chop into the expiration. Tie that in with your strategies, and I think it'll help you out a lot better than just trying to pick up or down. So the other name that I thought I'd show you real quick with a similar way of thinking is NVIDIA. Now, NVIDIA has a dividend that is due up next week, so I'm going to wait and let that dividend pass and then see if the idea is still any good. But the concept is still in there, right? The short $500 straddle would yield about a $40 credit. So if you were to look at the chart of NVIDIA, do you feel like a fair assessment would be to say above 460 but below 540 over the course of the next 15 days? That again is another place where I feel placing bets that are, directionally neutral, positive through their passing of time. That's the way that I'm going to try to make some cash in the coming weeks. So I hope that's helpful, gives you a few things to consider with your next setups, and we'll see you at the next free video.
Without simpler trading, I could not have financial independence.
This is one of the best investments I ever made in my life.
It's helping me find consistency.
It's one of the things that won me